Hey y'all, this is Editing Caitlin, and I'm editing this video right now, realizing I need to make it 2 parts because it's a bit long. So this is part 1, enjoy, and don't worry, part 2 will come next week, so stay tuned. Hey y'all, this is Caitlin, and I'm back with another crime time case. This one is unsolved, over 60 years old, and it's also from my hometown. So I'm super excited to get this story out there. It was unsolved and it had a lot of mystery, a little bit of corruption, possibly, most likely, and yeah, I find it really interesting that somebody hasn't been charged for the murder of these 2 girls in 60 years when the evidence is pretty strong. I do want to take a brief moment to say I will go into some of the details of what happened to the girls, and maybe it's a little bit graphic. Viewer discretion is advised for anybody under the years of 13. But if you are very interested like I was, stick around because we are going to get into this case. That is the double murder of Maddy Cathrine Restine and Patty Sue Pritz, which happened to take place in Carlsbad, New Mexico, where I grew up and lived for almost all of my life. This case is very interesting because I just covered the Delphi Murders. You can watch that in my last video and I'll link it below. The Delphi Murders were 2 young girls who were 13 and 14, went missing, bodies were found, and they still have not solved the crime that happened in Delphi, Indiana. And this case is eerily similar, but it was from 60 years ago. You cannot avoid the similarities in these 2 cases. And it's not what drew me to look more into the case of Maddy and Patty, who are the 2 girls from Carlsbad. It just happened as I researched and read more on this case that they were so similar. I do feel a little bit odd reporting on this case. A lot of the names that came up are kind of ones that I've heard around town. But I don't know family relations or anything like that. So just know that I don't mean to offend anyone. And if you are from my hometown, the best thing you can do is report any information to the local authorities. So Maddy and Patty were 2 young girls living in Carlsbad at the time. They were new friends. And again, this takes place in 1961, August 11th. We're walking to a local place called the beach. So the beach in Carlsbad, New Mexico goes along the Pecos River, but it's a local area, a local hangout for kids to go and has been for decades. So at this time, the beach had rides, activities to do. It also had a little beach, which was an area of the river where you could go swimming, and they made it very friendly to the community. Because the river goes directly next to the town, it's easily accessible. But the 2 girls that day were not going for a swim. They were going to kind of socialize, ride the rides, have some fun for the evening. Maddy and Patty had actually spent the day together, and their night ended towards the beach area where they went for activities to do. The disappearance of Maddy and Patty. We'll get into all of the details, don't worry. I just want to brief you on the situation. As I said earlier in the video, Maddy and Patty were new friends, so they had been friends for just a short period of time. And actually, Maddy's brother had introduced Patty to Maddy. Maddy had just turned 13, I think it was a few days before August 9th, and they went missing on August 11th. Well, Patty was 14 years old, and she was a little bit more mature and had more experience to say as being a teenage girl. Maddy was pretty sheltered by her family, and not necessarily in any bad way, just she was a young girl, so her mother wouldn't really let them go out without supervision. Her siblings, they always had an adult with them. And this was actually Maddy's first time really going out alone and having like the teenage girl experience, you know? No. It was her first time going out without an adult and just getting to, you know, be a teenager with her new friend. So on August 11th at around 2:30 p.m., the girls had actually gone to the local McDonald's where at the time Patty's boyfriend had worked. Patty was 14 years old and she was dating a boy who was named Ronnie Rice. Interesting name. I don't know, alliteration, I'm for that. He actually worked there at McDonald's and they just went to go in and see him. You know, like when you're with your friends, you stop by someone's work, chat. Ronnie had worked until 5:30 p.m., so they hung out there for a while. And then Maddy and Patty went on to their next place. I believe they had stopped at Maddie's aunt's house to pick up a part of their outfit for the day. So they kind of were like a little matching sailor outfit and they needed the little necktie and just to make sure the outfit was complete. So they stopped there. And the next time they were seen, I believe, was walking to the beach. The girls were reportedly seen walking to the beach. So there's a main street that goes directly through the town. I believe it's north to south. I'm trying to remember the mapping. But it goes directly from one end of the town to the other end of the town. It's a very small town, especially at this time it was even smaller. And it goes directly down to the beach. A lot of houses, community area were on this road as well as the local high school. You could access a lot from here. They're walking down to the beach and there's some houses on each side. So witnesses had reported they saw the girls walking to the beach area. Now at around 8:40 p.m., a man by the name of Ben Wade Gates reported seeing Maddy and Patty at the beach. And this is when Maddy had informed Ben that she was supposed to be home at 8 o'clock. So she was past her curfew. I'm sorry, I just can't get over the fact that everybody has 3 names. This is very like southern, older like aspect of my town. We have Ben Wade Gaines. We have both Maddy and Patty go by 3 names. Of course, they just use their first name, but it's just a little fun fact. So after Ben saw them, the girls, I believe, headed home after that. You know, Maddy probably was a little bit worried because, again, she hadn't gone out often. Her mom was most likely going to worry about her being 40 minutes late, but she also knew she was teenage girl out for the first time and it happens. They also lived close to the beach area. By close, I mean most people walk around our town all the time. I remember growing up, I would literally walk from my middle school, which happens to be the old high school at the time, my middle school to the other side of town with my friends at this age. And, you know, we would stop at the shops, buy some stuff, continue our walk home. And it was, so I find it interesting, like knowing I did this growing up in the same areas as them. I would go to the beach, go swimming with my friends, walk back to their house. At the beach, you meet up with your friends, you see people that you know from school, you get to socialize. So it's really just a fun time. And then go home after a while. It was no big deal. Our parents weren't really worried. They knew where we were. And, you know, it's not common that something really bad would happen or you had to worry about your kids going out and having fun. After 8:40, when Ben saw them, it gets a little muddy per se. Like there's a lot of witness reports of seeing the 2 girls, but the details of what happened exactly can be a little bit confused. So here is what I know. At 8:40 p.m., the girls had saw Ben, and I'm assuming after this they started to walk home because witnesses report from 9 to 9:30 p.m. seeing the 2 girls walking down the street. So this is August, it's hot, it's summer, people go out on their porches and sit there. People are coming in and out of their houses after being out and about. So there were quite a few witnesses, but none of them got clear details. So I'm assuming the girls walking home, right? The first witness sees them on 603 Mesquite Street, and the witness is Keith D. Bunnell. He reports that he was outside of his house. I believe he had just turned off his porch light. And he saw the girls walking, and he saw a car pull up next to the girls. The guy got out of the car and was talking to the two girls, who are reportedly Maddy and Patty. He remembers hearing them kind of like laugh, and he did hear a squeal, but he thought it was just, teenage girls talking to a guy. He reported saying that if he thought the situation was bad, he would definitely remember it more. But it was just something he saw, and he couldn't really make clear of what was happening because it was dark at the time. And he reports that the girls got into the car with the man. The man looked a little bit younger and, let's say maybe 5'8". He was around that height, give or take a few inches. He did mention that the man grabbed Patty and kind of pulled her into the car at the time. And both girls got into the car. So that is that witness report. The next witness report is at 9:30 p.m. There was a drive-in shop along the road, and this is a convenience store because there's also drive-in theaters. Don't get confused. This is an old-fashioned type of place where you go to eat. They call it a drive-in. You pull up, you get your food. The woman working there reports that she saw the two girls. They grabbed some snacks, and she also saw a man with them. The two girls got back in the vehicle. And this is where I'm so confused at what's happening because I'm not sure if they got in willingly, but they went to the shop after Kenneth had seen them. And just the witnesses' reports are a little bit confusing to me. She also said he was wearing a white light-colored shirt, mid-20s or late 20s, early 30s was how she reported the man. From here, everything is a little muddled between the witness reports because it's just not clear if the girls knew this man or not. I'm sorry, she didn't report the man as having a white t-shirt. It was just like a tan, yellow, light colored t-shirt. And she remembers that the sleeves on the shirt were rolled up. Now let's go back to the friend that they saw at the beach, which was Ben Wade Gaines. He had told the girls, like, I get off at 9, let me give you a ride. But I don't know if they were waiting for him and decided not to wait or why they went ahead and walked home. But at 9, Ben was a little bit worried because he didn't see the girls. He thought maybe they walked on home without him. He went by Patty's house and was talking to their mother, and they were both waiting for the girls to arrive. It's reported that he sat with her on the porch for around 45 minutes. I'm not sure why, if he knew them, how he knew them exactly, but he was a friend of theirs. He also worked at the beach rides area. That's kind of the last you hear about him when reading into this case, so I'm assuming he was not a suspect of any kind. He was just a concerned friend who was curious as to what had happened, where were they. So of course, Patty's mother is really concerned, but they just don't know where the girls are. And the girls would not be seen or found until 36 hours later. So this is quite a time period. There are two rabbit hunters, Billy and Willie, who found them. So this is when we get into the drama. Let me report to you Billy and Willie's statement about what happened. Again, remember, United States, a little bit of a southern town, 60 years ago. So I know Billy and Willie is a little interesting of names. They also go by Willie Blair, and we can say Ben Melton. So Willie and Ben didn't actually spend a lot of time together, but these two friends went rabbit hunting that day. It was early morning of August 13th. Please bear with me. It is kind of hard to exactly pinpoint where the girls' bodies were found because it's hard to find online. A lot of the roads have changed, and this is the desert. A lot of open land surrounding it, and I have been to a lot of these areas, but they are hard to describe. I'll show some images, some map images of kind of the road they were found on, so you can see the landscape and what it looks like. Now let's get into how they were found. That morning, Bill and Willie decided, let's go fishing. They went to shoot some turtles. Yes, that is a thing that happens. So they went out to the Cox farm, which they had to pay to use the farm at the time. It was $1. He let them onto the land. They went fishing and shot some turtles. Then they decided to head back into town. They went to a filling station, a gas station, and they stopped there for a moment. Then while they went to shoot rabbits, they were shooting them from the vehicle. So basically, y'all, we are Hicks in that area. We are a little country, so sadly, this, I have some friends that also did this type of thing in high school when I grew up. You drive along the dirt road, you shoot from your car. Very dangerous. Don't recommend it. It's kind of like a what the hells are we doing situation. And these were older men. This is what they were doing. When Willie said, "Bill, back the car up. I think I saw something." Out of his eye, he saw a little red clothing item. So they stop, they look from the car, and they see a body. This is in one of the first police reports. So Willie said, "I see a body," and Bill said, "There's another one. We need to go back, contact authorities." At this time, of course, no cell phones. They drive back into the filling station, no phone that can reach into town to contact the authorities. They drive into town. They never got out of their cars. It's not reported that they ever left the vehicle. They saw the bodies from their vehicle. They go into town at a place called the North Y. I don't know what it is at this time in the 60s, but I don't know if it's the same location. But growing up, we also had a place that was called the North Y, and it was a restaurant. It's quite further into town. So they stopped there, and the authorities are contacted. Well, the authorities came and they took Bill and Willie with them to the crime scene to show them where it was. It was located near Sitting Bull Falls, and I believe it's an arroyo. I can't remember the name right now. The location was near a place called Sitting Bull Falls, which is a waterfall in the area. You have to drive quite a ways out there, and now it is going towards the Artesia Highway, which is also referred to as Highway 137. Basically 15 miles west of town is where the bodies were found. So at this point, the area is investigated, and Bill and Willie went in to report what they had seen. Willie and Bill are being questioned about the bodies they found, and they also gave their statement of where they were the night that the girls went missing. And this is where, the whole case is a catastrophe. The police did not handle this well. Authorities did not handle it well. It just really wasn't cared for as much as it should have been, because it's two young girls who are found dead and quite brutally murdered. Bill kind of didn't cooperate in giving a polygraph test. The police asked, "Will you give a polygraph test?" He didn't want to that day. He was off of work. It doesn't really matter. They never got one from him. They asked Willie if he would give a polygraph test, but he also avoided it. And they went back to his home to find him to get a polygraph test, but he wasn't home that day. He kind of avoided the situation as well, which is interesting. Like, why aren't they doing all they can to help? So Willie gave his information about where he was the night of the murders, but the next time they brought him in, he changed what he had said. The first time he had said he picked up his wife. He had gone fishing earlier in the morning, picked up his wife from work, and then went over to his friends for the evening. The second time was reported, "Oh, my wife didn't have work that day. I forgot. I had been working on my son David's car. And then I went over to my friends, who then collaborated that this was where they had been. Him and his wife had been with these two friends. And these two friends are Mr. and Mrs. Hughes is the name I have for them. They will be important in the case. As well as First, Willie had said that it was Ben's idea to go out to this location to go rabbit hunting. And Ben then reported, we weren't that great of friends. It was Willie's idea to go to this location. He was the first one to spot the bodies. And Ben said, I never saw a body, which Willie had reported that Ben had also said, I see a second body. Ben went on to say he never said that he didn't see a second body, that he was going off of what Willie had said. Interesting, because Mr. Willie Blair becomes our first suspect. I want to first take a moment to talk about the location of where the girls were found, because it is said that Patty might have been the person that was meant to be murdered, and Maddy just happened to be there whenever Patty was kidnapped, if that is what happened. Or if she went willingly, we don't know. When they found the girls, Maddy had been in more of a pristine condition than Patty had been. There was a lot of aggression and violence taken out on Patty's body, which makes people believe that she was targeted again. And that Maddy was just, like, sadly, unfortunately, there when the situation happened. Both the girls had, in my opinion, been sexually assaulted. It just happens that Maddy's clothes were still on her and she was placed more neatly at the crime scene. While Patty, her clothes were folded, oddly. Her clothes were folded, but her undergarments were thrown around. And it is reported that she had a little diary or journal that she kept, and it was placed on her clothing stack. So odd. I have no clue how that happened. Some people think that maybe her clothes are folded because the man forced her to undress and threw her, and she was trying to save time by folding them and placing them there, and maybe the guy got angry and so forth. I want to say a lot of the information I gathered was found from Web Sleuths. Shout out Web Sleuths. If you want to find information on a case, that's a good place to either start getting details or to find details. And the person who posted the most on this thread was Maddie's sister. At the time of the crime, she was 10 years old. Her name is Restine Rice, and she is still alive. And for all of these years, she has been the sole person trying to find justice for her sister and as well Patty. So the information I've gathered, a lot of what she has reported given the evidence she has. So she has a lot of the original police documents, photos, and honestly the most accurate description of what had happened in 1961. And again, thank you for coming back. If you watched the last Crime Time, don't forget to subscribe below. Please don't be shy to leave your comments. I love to hear more information. If there's a crime that you have that you want me to report on, yeah, don't be shy.